why we this is how we kind of like ventured into the like idea itself, because the like one of the idea we had was like before starting LongShot, we had been kind of tackling problems for various clients to basically produce content long and short both, right? So in fact, so this is something we realized is going to be helpful. And in fact, like what, to be honest, like whatever content we have produced so far in terms of content marketing uses LongShot, right? So I mean, I personally in some sense, like we vet it ourselves before kind of releasing it as a feature or as a as a part of the product. Like we create not just, so we create like not just our blogs, but also things like lots of emailers, as well as the lot of posts which goes out in social platforms, etc. So this is what we anyway use. Now when it comes, so for in with respect to today's talk, we are slightly slightly more focused on content which is more like factual in nature. So so this therefore is in some sense a bit different from what we or B2B SaaS companies do, because like the needs of an editor or a digital newsroom folks are slightly different. That they deal with the content which has to be factually very authentic. So there is of course a significant number of overlap, but yes, there are some power features which kind of are dedicated towards this very use case.
Right. Super. Yeah. We already have 4 people who have joined in with that. Hey, Stefan, Muren, Ashish, Paris. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in on a Tuesday afternoon. I mean, it's Tuesday afternoon for us
Yes.
in India. It'll be really cool if you can just put in which part of the world you're joining in the chat window. For example, I am right now in Jaipur, India. Ankur, you are right now in which part of the country?
I'm in Mumbai in India. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Shivangi, which part of the country are you right now in?
I am in Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Folks, so yeah, if you're hearing me loud and clear, it's Miss Clarice from Philippines. Oh, awesome, Clarice. Thank you so much for joining in. Right? Really appreciate it.
So, I think as Vivek said, we'll probably wait for about 4 or 5 or so. So that just to give room for, last minute, like Michelle, for others to join in, and then we'll start.
Perfect. And it's been like this topic is something which comes up in a lot of the podcast episodes which we have recorded in the last few months. I know we have recorded a bunch of episodes with news SEOs, right? And I've seen a very interesting trend over the last 1 year. I remember the first conversation which I had earlier in the pandemic, when we had just launched our podcast. SEOs were almost okay, yeah, it's cool, but I'm not sure whether it will be able to produce real content, or whether it will be able to produce coherent content and so on, right? And that sentiment sort of changed as GPT-3 came into picture. That sentiment and has sort of changed drastically. In fact, over the last 2 years, when it has actually matured a lot more, right? In fact, I remember my last conversation, which was with Lily Ray, who is a director of SEO at Amsif Digital in the US. Right. She said that she was extremely scared of the use of AI-based tools in a typical digital newsroom setup, because that could throw a lot of people off the grid, right? And I think it'll be really cool to sort of for you to sort of throw light on what part of it is truly evolved enough to be an assistant or a replacement, right? We already have 15 people with us today. All right, guys, folks, thank you so much for joining in. It'll be really cool if you can quickly introduce yourself and which city you're from here in the chat, right? For instance, Ankur right now is in Bombay. I am in Jaipur, India. Shivangi is in Lucknow. Clarice is from Philippines. Yeah, just feel free to put in your city and country in the chat, right? Let's keep this conversational. Let's keep this interactive, right? We have a power-packed presentation ready for you folks. Ankur has put in a lot of interesting examples. There'll be a lot of bombs or knowledge bombs being dropped on you guys today. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the
Hopefully,
word
yeah. I mean, in a yeah. So
I think the word knowledge bomb will be banned, right, for a while, right? All thanks to Mr. Putin, right? Okay, Prakash from Bangalore, others from Darjeeling, Anushri from Mumbai. Hi, Bhavik. Hi, Murray. Thank you so much for joining in. Nuremberg, it's my favorite city in Germany. Thank you so much. Hey, Malena. Fantastic. Right. What will be really cool is, in fact, I'm going to throw in a poll, guys, a poll for you guys on your screen. And it'll be really cool if you can just sort of put in your preference, right? We just want to get a sense of how well you folks understand, AI-based writing, or if you actually had an experience with AI-based writing. I'll quickly launch this polls on your screen, right? Yeah, and we'll give you, like, let's say 10 or half a minute to sort of take a shot at this poll. Yeah. For the longest time, I was also in the third zone, which is, what's an AI writer? I mean, like, what is this supposed to do in the first place, right? And then once we got our hands on LongShot, we figured out, okay, this is serious stuff.
So on that note, Vivek, let me also mention. So the term has kind of caught up since about a year or so, but there had been AI products for content marketers before. Now the thing is that they of course launch of Jeep. So there are other types of AI which has also been developed, but GPT-3 is probably the most famous one. Like, we internally call it GPT-3, the Shah Rukh Khan of AI writers, which for a audience not familiar with Bollywood, it's like the Tom Cruise of AI writers. But then this is a efforts led by a lot of folks, a lot of research universities, and as a startup we kind of try to learn from them. We leverage their AI and also we kind of add our own understanding, our own sort of feedback based on users, and create a product for you. So the point is that I would say that even 5 years back there had been products which purportedly used AI for writing, but if you look at the products now and then it's like a kind of a word apart. And this is going in a this is every day. Like, maybe if we are having another webinar like couple of months down the line, like, I'm sure that things would have evolved, right? So it's like evolving at literally the breathtaking pace. And so and which of course I understand that sometimes people have a lot of questions, confusion, apprehensions, and this webinar, I hope, can at least address some of this as far as our understanding or experience so far has been.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I think we already have about 20 plus folks who have joined us already, right? There is absolutely no reason why we should not start, right? So guys, thank you so much for joining us today on a Tuesday afternoon. Really appreciate it. I'm your host, Vivek Khanilwal, founder of iZoto. And today I have with me co-founder and CEO of LongShot.ai, Ankur Pandey, with us, who will talk to us about the role of AI in a digital newsroom. Hey, Ankur, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Vivek. Hi, Shubhangi. So, thanks iZoto team for inviting me. And, I hope that with this collaborative webinar, I hope to answer some of the questions, share some of our learning in this very space. And, kind of, feel free to ask questions, if any. I would rather say that, Vivek, you will be leading this, but, if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer as is also.
Sure, perfect. So yeah, folks, you would see a Q&A button on your Zoom window. Feel free to use that and send in questions whether you have one. We're obviously recording this webinar right now, so in case you have to drop off or you can't continue, feel free to drop off. We'll send across the recording to you irrespective. Right. I'll quickly just talk about iZoto for just like 1 minute. iZoto is an own audience marketing platform. We work with publishers across the globe, helping them reduce their dependency on Facebook and Google. Right. This is the power equation, which has been troubling a lot of digital publishers over the years. Right. Publishers have been pushed below the poverty line of attention, right? And we at iZoto sort of are on a mission to solve that, right? With that, I'll give the floor to Ankur. Ankur, feel free to share your screen and bring up your slides.
Awesome. Yeah. So thanks again, Vivek. Let me share my screen. Right.
Sure.
Okay. So I hope everyone
Perfect.
can see my screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So right.
Hit
So
full screen mode in this.
This one. Okay. This works. This is the full screen mode, I believe.
The right bottom, there's a button to like zoom.
Okay.
Take the full screen. Right.
Right. 1 second. Oh, no, this is not the button.
Hang on. 1 second.
I believe that the screen is. Okay. Let's. I hope that it's still. I think there's somehow I'm not seeing the full screen mode. I hope everyone is comfortable with this view. Yeah. Right. Okay. So. Right. So I think Vivek already.
Just go for this.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So Vivek has already introduced. Like the topic of the talk today. So just to recap, the talk is going to be about AI writing in, AI writing in general. Specifically, we'll address some of the points, some of the learnings when it comes to digital newsrooms. And, there has been a lot of, as I said earlier, confusion, interest as well as confusion, apprehensions as well as excitement from the writers. We'll also share our learning based on the user experience, based on few of the clients we serve. And and maybe give you a clearer picture by the end of the day, by the end of the talk, that is that what can AI do, what can't it do, is it really an assistant, or is it going to be kind of taking over editor, so to speak, right? So right, so by the way, like this is, so although a lot of you may have heard of it a bit late, but this is not something in future, right? So this is already being used by a lot of digital newsrooms as we speak. So these are a few of the names of the big ones, which actually use in some shape and form AI writing abilities. And this we actually work actively with one of them. Now this is not to imply that their whole content process today leverages AI writing only, but it's just that like various departments etc. do use it, and this is going to actively increase. So I'll actually the way I have So this is a slide which kind of shows you that how the sort of buzz has been, right? I mean, like we all use things like Google Trends just to kind of gauge how famous or how much talked about a topic is being. And as you can see that has been this surge here. So we are seeing that this upsurge, a lot of people are writing about it, a lot of people are kind of trying to understand, trying to get the answers about it, right? So this is so there has been, as I said, like it's not completely absent. There you will probably see some spikes. All right, now, so before actually, so I have structured this talk not really to educate from the bottom up, that what all AIs can do, etc. I have rather kind of taken approach that what is the status quo, like where exactly is being used today, what are the problems people are finding difficult, and how do how does AI writing actively trying to solve it, or whether it can solve it. Now some of the important this is based on our experience and the experience of like other players, that these are some of the hot topics. So when it comes to newsrooms, right, like generally editorial work, publishing works, but more specifically about newsrooms, there's a lot of types of content, right? there's of course there is a live news about which I'll come to in a moment. But there is also like various kind of articles, repeatedly articles about food and drinks, career and education, health. So these are 5 of the topics, like, which we have seen. These 5 are not random, but these are the 5 the most written about categories which leverages AI writing, right? So let me repeat. So these are the subtopics or the categories in which AI writing so far has been most effective. So, like if you have questions in mind that, oh, what, like, should AI or not should, but is the AI rating being used in this field or that field, this niche or that? So, these are our findings, that these are the top categories in which AI writing is actively being used, and for actually published articles. Okay, so as I mentioned in the beginning, I'll actually kind of sort of directly go for the jugular and basically be upfront about what are the problems which which we have been asked about, which we have seen repeated conversation about when it comes to which editors or publishers ask about AI writing, or the problems or the sort of potentials of it. So what we have done is, are you able to see the last things?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So we have kind of term. There are 3 big problems we have seen, when it comes to which are kind of in some sense inhibiting further adoption of AI writing, and we'll talk a bit about these in detail. So just to kind of give a high level overview, the problems we think are, one is drunken stupor. So what does this mean? This means that at times what happens is that the AI writing softwares or AI writing systems, they would produce content which will sound very grammatically correct, human like, but will be really nonsensical. So I'll come to example just in a few seconds, but let me kind of again emphasize. So the idea is here, so for example, let's say you're writing about a particular niche you're not familiar about at all, right? So it might come up with things which are very nonsensical, which are absurd, and but to an unassuming audience, it may pass off. So you have to be careful, right? You have to be careful that or there has to be checks and balances, in how to basically teach, or how to kind of tame the AI to write about the content which actually resonates with the real world, right? It should not make up things on its own. So this is one of the things we have seen. Second thing is in some sense related to this, which is that even if the content is kind of fine, it sometimes come up with facts which again, like which might be hard to check, how to catch, how to detect, but may not be exactly correct. So for example, let's say if you're writing an article about I don't know, like wildlife sanctuary in India, right? So it might just say that there are like 55 wildlife sanctuary in India, right? And this may not exactly be the case. It might actually even list few of the wildlife sanctuary in India based on the data or the like the information it has been trained upon. But the number 55, this might not be like super reliable, right? So this is again like, and in the field of editing, right, these kind of information might be very critical. So this can make or break, right? For example, recently India witnessed the election, right? So if you were to go wrong about quoting the number of votes, quoting the number of seats won, etc., right? So your article credibility goes for a toss. So yeah, so this is the second problem. And the third problem, what we have noticed is the staleness, which means that like all the products, like including us and others products and systems, right, which uses AI writing, are built upon mammoth high, large scale AI models, right, which actually are not every day updated. So for example, let's say somebody has released, or a big company, Google or OpenAI has released a model which was trained, let's say, a couple of years back. So even if it knows a lot of stuff, it knows only stuff trained till couple of years back. Now, therefore, there are, of course, a lot of contexts in which you need fresh information. A lot of things stay the same in couple of years or don't change too much, but other things do, right? So therefore, you kind of risk having extremely stale data, even if it is correct, even if it is reliable, there can still be thought from that's old. It looks like it is giving you the context which is not really about the current times, but sometime somewhat older. So I just want to give a high level overview, and let's see what does these even mean, like with examples.
It reminds me of an MBA class where the professor said a beautiful line, which went like this: "There's a strong undercurrent of commonality between efforts and success." Right? That's what drunken stupor, like really feels like, where you say something really heavy, but it actually makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. And pretty much like pretty much like what you're seeing here, right? For example, just like at a glance, this looks like something, some text has been written, but if you really read about it, what does it even mean? I mean, it is as nonsensical as anything can get, right? So there is actual example of unleashed AI, so to speak, right? Like just ask it to write about Lionel Messi without any kind of context whatsoever, and this is what it does. So pretty unusable, right? And so I think this is, so as I said, like at a first glance I will probably think that this looks like a okay paragraph, but apparently it is not, right? So now what is it really one can do in order to fix these things? So as I kind of hinted about a while back, the problem is not really so it's like saying that maybe there are Lionel Messi. It has what it is really doing is that it is kind of picking up some information it has learned about Lionel Messi, right? Then it is suddenly kind of changing it. It is suddenly kind of encountering that it has something to do with France, and now this is happening all while you kind of basically use it, because it is basically producing the output from the data it has learned or trained from. So so there is an analogy I like to give here. So imagine that there's a small kid who has an amazing memory, right? It has kind of by-hearted everything, right? It has by-hearted a lot of encyclopedic information, but it does not really know, right? Like it does not really know the context. It does not have the common sense, so to speak, right? So at times you'll probably encounter seemingly idiotic sentences from such a kid, right? So this is what it does. It suddenly kind of drifts to France, and then it produces something about president of France. Now at the moment you realize this problem, there are solutions to it. The solution is to actually restrict it from going haywire. And basically what it means is that basically like a lot of AI writing products try to solve this problem, including us, that the point here is to in some sense have a leash on the AI writing, that give it the proper context, give it some kind of a guidance, that what is it producing, does it make sense, is it based on enough keywords. So for example, if you go to this slide, right? So the idea was to write something on COVID-19 in India, right? You have to first do some kind of research. You just do not start writing. You do first some research, and then it gives some output, and then you select a headline. So you give a proper structure to it, and therefore the AI now knows enough context. It has enough understanding, enough focus on that. Okay, this article is supposed to be about COVID-19 in India based on so and so keywords, and based on this and this headline, right? So therefore it has like kind of been leashed, in some sense, and the likelihood to produce a sensible content increases, right? Yeah. So similar to the structure here, we can kind of further the structure by you then can create an outline, which is basically something like content brief, and then you produce a full article. So I'll probably give a small demo also, but the idea here is to kind of basically the overarching spirit here is to basically try to have stop or checkpoints at every step, and try to only generate when the AI knows enough context, and not let it go haywire, right? So okay, so Vivek, do you have any things, any questions, or any questions from the audience maybe at this point? All right, so if not, like what I'll do is that I'll kind of try to sort of show a small demo, right? So there is this article which has already been written. Now, as you can see, that what we have done is that we have kind of selected a lot of keywords to use here. We have also selected these headlines. So when you, for example, try to generate something here, it can still go wrong, but it'll basically, the context will be dependent a lot on what it has seen already, what keywords it is supposed to use already, etc. So if I actually now press write more, this is one of the features we use. Yeah. So not to claim that this is what you will expect anyway. You can actually, delete it and kind of try to rewrite it. But the idea is that still kind of talks about Tesla. So it has seen Tesla here. It has seen something about electric car here, etc. Right? You can. So this is basically, the idea here is to make sure that AI knows enough context. Make sure that
Ankur,
it is lead.
I think people are not able to view the product right now. Can you just please check again?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for that. Right. So just let me reshare once again.
Yeah, I think the screen share was only on the browser.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So I hope now they should be able to see the product.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. So I'll just kind of, give this, just repeat slightly, what I was basically demonstrating. So what I was basically implying was that, let's say, for example, here we have written this, this headline. This was also AI produced, but still, like, there are checks and balances. We had basically, it has gotten through some review before actually being in the article. And similarly for this paragraph, etc. Now it is also supposed to use all these keywords, etc. Now if I want to produce something here, if I just press on write more, the idea is that, it will be constrained with the information it has already seen. It will not it's likely to be constrained. That is, at times it also misbehaves, but it is more likely than not to be constrained and kind of follow the rules of the game, like it has kind of, produced before. Now see, it has, so it at least it has generated something about Tesla Roadster. It has, because it has seen things like Tesla and cars, etc., new car launches, etc., right? So this is the kind of leashing we do. I was probably, mentioning that, these things might be unreliable, and I'll come to just in a minute that how do we actually check for it. All right, so back to the screen, just a second, back to the slide, that is. Okay. Right. Yeah. So I hope the slide is visible. Right. So,
yes.
So this is basically, the idea here is that, so just to answer, if you're wondering that, AI has is infamous for writing or, going in a direction which might be nonsensical. This is a valid concern. Yes. But the community has tried to solve this problem by trying to structure, create enough barricades around it. Right. Now, the second problem is that, how do you know that the information passed is factually correct? Now, this is a bit different from the last point, which basically was about is the thing nonsensical or not. Now, even if the things are sensible, even like, for example, we saw in the generation about Tesla Roadster, right? It said it has so and so speed and so mileage, etc. Right? Now, this is not nonsensical, but it might still be incorrect. So when it comes to things like claims and numbers, this is another problem or another questions or another criticism posed by the community, that, these numbers are at times unreliable, which is a valid concern. And the thing is that, and AI itself cannot solve it, to be honest, right? So the solution to such things, so again, like, when I was talking about the structuring or leashing when it comes to writing, similarly, what you should do is that you should basically try to fact check everything you write, or at least most of the things. Now, of course, this is easier said than done, right? If you're writing tons of content every day, especially when you are in a newsroom, right, where, thousands of articles are being published every day, this become an insurmountable task in itself. It's probably creating more problem than it is solving, right? So the idea here is to try to create it, like we try to create technology so that the fact check can go vis-a-vis, right? The community has tried to come up with solutions so that fact check can go vis-a-vis writing. So what do I mean, right? So I think this image will make sense, and I'll also show a demo on this. So basically, for example, if this is an article, I hope that So you don't have to read everything, but broadly, if you can infer what is written, this should be okay. So if I'm writing an article on COVID-19, India's response to COVID-19, right, there might be some of the statements which might not be exactly correct, right? Now, basically, so I'm sure that all of you would have used some things like Grammarly. Now, what does Grammarly do? Grammarly tries to warn you when you are doing, basically writing a grammar which is not standard or does not agree with. You can still choose to write whatever you want, but it at least warns you, right? So similarly, the idea here is to warn the user that, okay, you know what, like these are the things which needs to be fact checked, and actually then fact check on the fly. So not all. So for example, it has kind of warned about 1.3 billion people. It happens to be correct. Like this is, I hope that this is a known thing. So this, it has kind of warned that, this is a number you should fact check. This is also a kind of a measure by the government apparently, which is, or you should fact check that did government really do it, etc. And this is a statement which you should fact check, etc. So the idea here is that, and in the beginning of the talk, I was mentioning that this is one of the things which editors repeatedly use, because the kind of content they deal with on a day-to-day basis involves a lot of such things, which one has a lot of facts, and second, that facts, the accuracy of fact is probably more important than other type of disciplines, right? So the idea here is the solution of this particular issue lies in the sense that what can you detect? What can you detect that so if these are numbers, if these are claims, you should rather fact check, or the solution is to fact check it. First alert about it, and then actually fact check on the fly. So just to demystify what I'm basically talking about, let me kind of share the screen again.
In fact, that's the first question which you got right now, Ankur, which is,
okay,
is this a feature or is this like a manual process which somebody has to go through?
No, it's not a manual process. So I think we had produced this information, right?
Yeah.
So what if we want to fact check this? So let me actually fact check this. Take some time. Yeah. So it is apparently, so see, it is apparently a bit incorrect, right? Because it says that 0 to 60 mph in 4.9, whereas what it has seen, like for example, so what we have done is that, the idea is to pick from authentic sources information which has been kind of verified before, and therefore just help editors to make this judgment call themselves. And I was also I also showcased that the red lighting, right? Like how does it alert? So there is this button to detect claims. So it will alert you. Again, this is a bit beta features at times, because this is a hard task, that what is really the claim? Is numbers only the claim, or is a statement or an action is a claim? So see, last year Tesla sold 300,000 cars, right? So this is something which often can go wrong, not every time, but you should rather fact check. See, this is something which I also highlighted. So out of all these texts, you don't have to fact check everything. You have to just, first of all, it will alert you that what should you fact check, and once it does, you can just kind of right click and decide, or fact check yourself. So I hope it answers the question.
Right. Okay, Ankur, I have one more question now, which I think sort of fits in very, very well with what you're saying right now. Is this content like copied from different sources on the internet? Is this paraphrased? Like because one, is this plagiarism free? Essentially, I think that's the bigger question here, because no editor wants to ever be told that, hey, you copied this from someone, right? So
true, absolutely. No, you are absolutely correct. And this is again, like, I think I should have tackled this, as soon as I started. But yeah, this is a very valid question. And no, so like the answer is that the short answer here is no, it is not lifted directly from the web. I mean, of course, apart from statements like, let's say simple statements like, electric car have been around for 100 years. So, short snippet like that, you of course can see the exact same line written elsewhere. But when it comes to the article, it is actually writing. So when I say actually writing, it is not trying to copy paste or copy and paraphrase from somewhere else. So imagine that it has learned. So like if I were to ask you that like maybe explain to me what is I don't know, like what is a common topic? Yeah, what is going on between Ukraine and Russia, right? So I'm sure most of you will have some points or some answers, right? Now, if I were to, it does not mean that you are actually verbatim quoting. Some of you might, but verbatim quoting from somewhere else. You have learned or gone through a lot of sources, and you have kind of assimilated the information. Then you are trying to kind of, basically you have already processed it, and then you are telling it to the audience based on that, right? You might be adding your opinion, but it works similarly. So the thing here is that it has, in some sense, assimilated the information, but when it comes to the output, it is not exactly either paraphrasing or copying. So, and this has given rise to a very interesting phenomena. So what we have seen is with AI writing software. So we still provide a way to check for plagiarism. You feel free to check for that, and we advise you to do that, because if this is a sensitive thing for you. But we have seen issues like plagiarism to be very, very low in number, right? Like the content might be, so few of the lines might occur in other sources because they are generic lines, factual lines, etc. But more often than not, we have seen that this is not really a problem. So this is, therefore, since it is not a problem, although I should have addressed it, I did not mention it in one of the problem areas of AI. So I hope I'm able to answer the question.
It sort of triggers the next question, which is AI leftist or is AI rightist? Is AI capitalist? Is AI socialist? I think that sort of depends on the
it is whatever it has been trained on.
Whether it's been trained on, right? So it can swing either ways. It can be pro-Tesla, it can be anti-Tesla, right?
Exactly.
But very interesting, right? The fact that it is genuinely intelligence that sort of which is actually helping it generate this content and has a legit point of view, right? Technically speaking, right, you and I also have been trained, right, over the years by the media which we have consumed, by what we have heard, right? Which sort of what sort of shapes our point of view, right? And there is no reason why this piece of software is any different.
So it will have, it's like this. It will have all the shortcomings which humans have, except maybe the speed, and it does not get tired. But other than that, pretty much tries to mimic how it is capturing from a large piece of information, but still the finite information. Now, which brings me to the which is a good segue to the last problem or the third problem which we highlighted, right? So let me share again the.
Good. So while you sort of switch to the slides, right? I have one more question from one of the participants, which is, what if there are different answers from multiple reliable sources? What's drill there? Does it pick the most popular answer?
So again, it is not picking anything. As I said, the bottom line here, the takeaway here is it is not really picking any. And it can also happen that if you ask it twice, it will give you two different answers, or two hopefully slightly different, but not exactly the same answer. And
I think this was with regards to the facts which were presented.
Okay.
How you were doing a fact check.
Okay. So right. So let me clarify. So the thing is that when we talk about, so there is AI writing, and then there are ways to use AI writing. Now, when it comes to fact check, now the fact check is a system which is not exactly the feature of AI writing. It's like we are trying to fact check AI ourselves or using some other technology, right? So that technology has nothing to do with AI writing. It's per se. And so that way, so it is going to give me, okay. So if you were to ask me a specific question in the sense that let me share the, just a second. So if you were to ask me that where does this come from, where do these facts come from, the answers to these facts come from, right? So this is basically what we do is, okay, just a second. I think, right. So okay, this is already there. So this is basically what we have done is that we have created a verified, refereed, sources of list, and this is basically for various type of category, they range in hundreds of thousands number. But tomorrow, if you were to kind of change this and add your own favorite source of information, that is also possible. So what we are basically doing is that we are kind of checking the fact from a gazillions of sources, which we either trust or which has some kind of veracity score, right? And but so for example, we have been approached by, or it is also possible that you tomorrow can say, I don't trust this source or trust something else. This is definitely, it is likely that a system can be developed which will only focus on your sources for this verified. So this is a meta question, right? That now if you were to question that, oh, how does AI know that which of these sources, my favorite source is correct or your favorite is correct, there's no answer. I mean, this is beyond the scope of
no, I understand that, right? Again, it's a piece of software. It tells you something. Right? It can highly likely that it is, it is relying on a piece of source, right? Can the source itself be wrong? Maybe yes, right? No, you can't
absolutely.
sort of really bet you on that, right? It's sort of
so, but just, right. So just imagine the scenario that if you were to manually search in like these hundreds of thousands of sources, right? It would have taken a insurmountable amount of time. So the search is being still done in the source, or the verification is still being done with respect to the sources, but yes, it is being done very fast. So that's about it. It is not infinite resources. All right, which, as I said, like, which brings me to the third point, which is that, as I kind of mentioned a few minutes back, one of the things is that even if you can kind of get away with the problem of coherence or sensible generation, as well as factual accuracy, what if it does not even know enough things? Like, what if, like, let's say I'm trying to write only about, I don't know, like, organic farming, right? But for some reason AI does not have enough information about that. What to do there, right? So like, this is again a problem, and in some sense the solution to this is like, there's no absolute solution really, because of course there might be scenarios wherein the information is really not out there. It is not like, you cannot really tell the AI that, okay, like, look at it and learn, right? So information is very is a very human consumable type of information rather, right? So therefore those kind of caveats exist. But when we talk about practical scenario, for example, just to take the example of organic farming. So I have a statement that, the modern AI writing software actually know a lot about a lot of things, but not everything about specific thing, right? So now you might want to write about an organic farming of a very specific kind, and it has only a very generic information. Now, what do you do? Exactly what AI is known to do well, which is train it, right? So it is possible that you can train the AI in some sense, that you can give your own data. So for example, like AI products are basically do those kind of things, that if you have a lot of data, right, if you have a lot of sources, it can actually be used for training for your own. So for example, you tell me that I have a list of 100,000 sources about organic farming. What if I give it to you, and then can you train it for us so that it knows it? Absolutely. So the generation will be much, and like, just to demonstrate this part also, so what we have done is like, just to showcase this, yeah, the product page must be visible, right? So if you see here, right, there is niche, right? So these are few of the example niches, just to cite an example, but this can go like much beyond these. Home decor, movies and TV shows. For example, if you use the general AI to talk about something like I don't know, Squid Game, right? It'll not know much of it, because it was trained, let's say, in 2019, when Squid Game was not even released. So what you can, a solution, not simple, like not technically simple, but yeah, a possible solution is to basically take a huge set of data and train the AI. So so this is what AI is good at. It can learn fast, right? So it will not, like, even if you give it 100,000 articles, it will not take a lot of time, right? So learn it. It may take a few hours, or maybe a couple of days even, but that's about it, right? So the idea here is that it is trainable. The bottom line is, it is trainable. And there is something also, there is something implicit in this training which actually surprised us also. And the idea is that when it trains, it even learns the style. So the idea here is that you can even say that, like, I want to write about, I want my AI to write, like, say, a particular set of authors, and here's this set of articles by these set of authors. Is it possible to have, or mimic, or in some sense get inspired from the writing style there? Maybe they produce a peculiar type of adjectives. Maybe they have a like a British humor or whatever, right? So this is also learnable. This is exactly what AI is really good at. That if you have enough data, then it can learn fast, right? It will not probably try to implicitly learn, but if you show it the data, it will learn fast. So yeah, just to kind of finish this point, the idea here is, for example, like, since this talk is focused on editors, right, mostly, and so a lot of editors have this issue that, like they actually, editors have a good thing that they can get access to a lot of data. So for example, newsrooms tend to have a lot of data, and so it is definitely possible to actually leverage that old data, right, and basically learn the data and for whatever categories, right. Let's say a newsroom is writing about I don't know, US politics, right. So the US politics data can be learned, and so that it knows much more than what it currently knows, right. So I hope I'm able to make this point clear.
Yep. Ankur, I think it's a time to sort of also pick up some more questions as well. Right?
Sure.
Okay. So, and there's something which we got an email from one of the editors, right? Can search engines distinguish between what's written by a bot versus what's written by a human as of now?
Yeah. All right. So that's a great question. I mean, this is a question asked a lot by marketers, but yeah, I mean, but yeah, just to answer this question, right? So it is, so the answer lies somewhat in this, So if you, for example, write like this, like you just ask it to AI to write something. So other than the possibility of it giving you the nonsensical information, the possibility also exists that, search engines like Google can smarten them up to detect it, but not when you have a structured type of writing. So the idea here is that, so of course there is a reason why search engines are vigilant about, so somebody tomorrow, if let's say, writes an article, produce a 2,000 word article in 5 minutes, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter that it might be a bit nonsense, but it ranks high, right? So if tomorrow this happens, then the credibility of search engine is at stake. So there, of course, they will be vigilant about it, but they are not, against you when it comes to writing sensibly and making sure, taking proper steps, checks and balances, writing in a structured fashion. So because now what will happen is that when you produce content like this, right? So here every part has been produced in some sense separately, right? So every part in some sense independent of each other, and they are now joined. So which is what actually, so if you if you try to just step back and think about what an editor really does, or what a content writer really does, like you are writing something, you're maybe taking a pause and writing something else and taking a pause. It is doing exactly the same thing, but much faster, which is different from somebody just completely blabbering something, which at times be correct, at times go wrong. Yeah.
Okay. The next question, and I think it's like a follow-up to this one, is: do we need to declare this in the current schema format that this was an AI-assisted article, or do you see that happening at some point in time? Because clearly, editors who are using a tool like this would have an edge in terms of their ability to push out content volume, right? Do you see that happening in sometime in the future right now? Yeah.
Right. So I mean, the thing is that like I can only share my experience. So like based on the experience of my users, our users, clients, etc., and based on the ecosystem we know of, I have not seen this happening at all, right? And I have not seen this. I mean, a lot of people have written articles using these products, which have ranked high, which are really good articles, like irrespective of whether they have been produced by AI or not, they're really high quality articles. So I don't think that a disclaimer at this point is necessary. Nobody, I have not encountered any mandate of search engines like Google requesting us to do that or others to do that. So as I said, like, it ties down to the reasons, like the reasons behind it. So, I mean, Google is not going to ask you to just declare, it is just going to ban you or at least deprioritize your SEO ranking, etc. Right?
Sure.
So,
okay, interesting. Right. And the next question which I have is right now, is there like a ratio that you would recommend people to maintain when they are using tools like LongShot, which is how much content should be written by the algorithm, how much should be written by the human? Is there a ratio that you recommend to people, or is it like go all in?
Yeah. So okay. So this is also a kind of answer which can be looked like post hoc, which means that it depends on. So for example, if you're writing about, let's say, an article about relationships, right? Now relationship is something which does not change very often, at least. So it is going to produce a really high quality content with much less edits. Like you only have to steer it in the way you want, and that's pretty much it, right? And versus if you're writing a very technical or semi-technical, so So therefore, like a global ratio is not possible. We definitely recommend. So the idea here is that make sure that AI is used as a tool, not like, you are sitting and kind of press a button and just kind of it's going to write and you then publish. As long as this is not happening, so you are sorted, right? So the ratio will come by itself, really. So that might have been a bit of a vague answer, but this is the best we can answer based on what we have seen.
That's okay. No, I get it. I completely get it. Perfect. Okay, you know what? Let's sort of just go with the presentation right now. We're already 45 minutes in. Yeah.
Right. So I'll just kind of, these are the last few things and wanted to kind of share. So like, this is again, like I have already kind of mentioned this, but a lot of times, and this is the title of the talk also, right? So like what is the role of the editor now? And in the subsequent slides, I'll probably there's some more insights on it. But so for example, if you look at this, so this is the real code, right? Like this is basically one of the recent experiences we have encountered. And but still the idea was that the editor was writing themselves, so nobody else was writing on the web. This is still a editor own verified bona fide content, right, where the brain and the idea has come from the editor or writer in this case. So this is going to continue now. Okay, this is just a like, I'll just probably come to this in a minute. Yeah, so I this is also an important thing, right? And since this is a talk focused on newsrooms and editors, although we have already touched upon this in the talk, but just as a disclaimer, right, this is the current status of the area. Now, I mean, of course, tomorrow it might improve or be changed. This slide is visible, I'm assuming, right? Like
yeah,
the bottom.
Right.
So the idea is that it is not super good for live news, or it is, I would actually recommend it not to use for live news. And the reason is that live news is something which is pretty much facts only, right? There is no point about fact checking, because pretty much everything which is in the live news is happening as as of now, and therefore you should not expect AI writer to kind of do something apart from things like rephrasing the content or tweaking the content, making I don't know, like quality tone improvements, things like that. This is something which people do that for. But so for example, the rewriting is fine, or writing op-eds is fine, but like commentary on something live, live sports events, live news, live politics, this is something which either, so we personally do not recommend, as well as we have not really seen much of the progress, and it will not be in the foreseeable future also. Right, don't, okay, sorry for a spelling mistake here, but technical and research articles also similarly no. And the reason is that a lot of times technical articles also are so sensitively fact based that the purpose of the writing system is lost. And also, like for example, if you're writing a research article on an extremely specific topic, now so either you train it on that particular type of so let me give you a slight different example in the kind of example we have actually seen. So for example, if you're writing an article on, let's say pharmacy, right, or a specific type of drug, even if you train so you'll probably see a lot of chemical equations there. You'll probably see a lot of things which has to do with regulations, right? So these kind of, there are more mistakes than you'll probably be happy with, right? So I would say that research and very technical articles also a no. But whereas it is really good for education articles, for example, if you want to, for example, write an article on machine learning, right, this is great. Not the machine learning paper, but an article about, like, what are the benefits, pros and cons, or what, even explaining algorithm, that's also fine. Similarly, and the third thing is something which I personally believe that should be or would be improved in as we go along. But like it or not, it is still English and some language like Spanish are still the best performing type of pieces of content when it comes to AI writers. And the reason is simple, that they have the most varied and the most like the most amount of data available in which AI had been trained or is being trained. So we basically, this technically is called a resource, low resource languages, right? Others languages. So, but this can tomorrow change, right? So I think, but since we're talking like as of now, maybe a lot of you are in editing with different languages, Indian or otherwise. So this is also a caveat I would like to. It is not like a no, but it is, when it comes to the content quality, the generation quality, we have seen the best quality in things like English, followed by Spanish, German, etc. Right. Yeah, and just this is just a kind of a quick sort of comparison of like how should you reason about or imagine about AI writers, like when it comes to the question of will they assist them, editors, or replace them. So like they are in some sense in the spirit similar to when it comes to Grammarly or Canva. Now, I mean, of course, people might argue that Canva did replace designers. So in that sense, yes, it might, right? But did it also empower, it also made a designer out of folks like me, right, who were not designer at all. So in that sense, it's also empowering a lot of folks. So I would say the what the help it has been giving the AI writers, it will be in some sense going to democratize the writing, but also it is it is going to be a tool after all. And the better like, for example, so this presentation has been on Canva. I'm sure somebody else would have done a much better job. So it is also up to the user to use it in the quality of the usage also depends on who is using it, really. Right. So that's pretty much what we had to share. This is just like things in action.
Thank you so much for this. This has been very insightful. I have a bunch of follow-on questions now, right?
Sure.
And this was a very, very interesting question, which I think a version of it is also asked over here right now, which is, what if two individuals are focusing on the same category, same topic, right?
Yeah.
Will the AI produce the same article for both of them?
So the chances of this happening is like virtually zero, and I can actually showcase like what is it. I mean, even if I want to, it's like you should ask the opposite question. Even if I want to produce the same content, it is pretty much like unlikely. Like
right.
Let me quickly share and demonstrate like what I mean. So for example, let's say I want to I don't know, generate a headline. Yeah. So sorry. Okay, let me generate a headline in. So if I want to generate a headline intro from this headline, so it has produced 3 different intros, right? And if I were to, let me save this and just to showcase, and if I again click on this, yeah, so completely like, okay, I should have actually copied it here just for you to, the thing is that it every time it produces something different, right? Like at least a bit different, depends on like factually correctness, factual content or in non-factual content. But the idea is that it is, since it's like if I were to ask you a question, slightly detailed question to a human being, right? Today if I ask and tomorrow if I ask, your answer will probably differ, right? You yourself might not remember what you answered yesterday. You'll not at least quote verbatim, unless you have like some kind of like a super memory or something. But so this is pretty much how it plays. So in that sense, it resonates how humans also perform.
Great. Okay, makes sense, right? Thanks for this. Also, Ankur, next question up is, does this, and this is like a very, very editor first question, does this integrate in my CMS, which is WordPress, for example?
Yeah, so of course, like these are all tool specific questions, and I'm sure that when it comes to like the tool we can so this is, so these are like when it comes to, if it's like saying that you have climbed Mount Everest, now you want to climb another ladder, so of course that's very doable.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So you do offer integration with CMSs?
Yeah, we do, of course. Yeah.
Fantastic. Cool. I think this is going to be a delightful experience for editors at least, right? It might not be perfect, but which is fine, right? Which is again not the expectation any which ways. The expectation is it's supposed to enable them do their job slightly better, right? And over time, the degree of improvement will sort of drastically shoot up, right? Which is what sort of made this a very exciting topic for us also, right? I'm sure folks on the webinar have sort of learned a lot today already, right? Once again, Ankur, if people have to reach out to you, what's the best way they can reach out to you?
So I can share my email ID. And probably that's the simplest way I can think of right now.
Yeah,
You know,
please.
so
Yeah, feel free to put it up on the chat, right? Folks, if you have any questions for Ankur today or later on, feel free to drop them. Drop an email to Shubhangi. Shubhangi is accessible on shubhangi@iso.com, or drop an email to me on v@iso.com. Happy to sort of introduce you to Ankur later on if required. Right? Feel free to drop him a line directly. Ankur is very active on LinkedIn, right? So do connect with him as well.
Yeah, I just pinged LinkedIn also.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, folks, once again, thank you so much. Expect the recording in your inbox in a day or so. We'll also share Ankur's slide as well, right? And if the LongShot team is kind enough, we'll probably also throw in a special offer for each of the customers and see if they want to take this for a ride.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Like, if you're interested, then we can work something out. Definitely. This is something we can really.
Okay, folks,
so again, thanks Vivek, and thanks Shubhangi, thanks Izuto team for this opportunity and this, giving us a platform for us to present.
Yeah, cool, folks. Thanks so much. I will end the webinar right now, right? And yeah, once again, have a great rest of the week. Bye bye. Cheers. Thank you.